Hi, and welcome to Tapped into Hudson. I'm Steve Lenox, and I'm the publisher of Tap into Hoboken, Tap into Bayonne, and Tap into Jersey City. As we sit in the studio today and we film episode 13 of this show, trying to bring news to our readers and viewers across Hudson County, we commemorate that it's April 6th. It's the one-year anniversary of the passing of Councilman Michael Youn in Jersey City. Councilman Youn passed away, unfortunately, to COVID-19 this time last year. He was really probably one of the first big names we saw that lost his battle with the virus. Since then, unfortunately, another 2,000 lives more have been lost in Hudson County, many, many more across the state and across the country, across the globe. Yet we sit here, we're still in the wake of COVID-19, we're still battling this deadly virus, but we're coming through the tunnel like we talk about every week. We're starting to see more great outdoor events, we're starting to get together a little bit more, but we're still masking up, we're still getting in line for our vaccines. We're still trying to stay healthy and stay apart as much as we can so we don't spread the virus anymore. Unfortunately, in some places, it seems the numbers are going back up, and maybe we're not doing all that we can to stop the spread of the virus. And that's something we're going to talk about today with our guest, Chris Halleron, who's our reporter in Tap into Hoboken. I appreciate the fact that you've watched the show every week with us. If you've missed past shows, we've had some great guests. Hudson County Chairwoman Amy DeGise, Republican Chairman Jose Arango. We had Assemblywoman Annette Shapiro a couple weeks ago. Just last week, we hosted Sherry Singh. She's the founder of the Autism Network, the Whole Spectrum Autism Network. Of course, this is Autism Awareness Month, so we're trying to bring awareness there too. Our goal at Tap Into, as we say every week, is to bring the local news that matters to you, right to your computers, right to your phones, right to your laptops. And thanks to Hudson Media Group, we can also do that on screen. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll be back in just a minute with Chris Halleron. Thank you.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design studio and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Hi, and welcome back to Tapped into Hudson. Again, I'm Steve Lenox, and I'm the publisher of Tap into Hoboken, Tap into Bayonne, and Tap into Jersey City. One of the great things about running these online newspapers is the great reporters that I get to work with. One of them is Chris Halleron, who's been doing our reporting in Tap into Hoboken and Tap into Jersey City. Chris is certainly not new to news. He's been doing this for many, many years. He's also the publisher of H-Mag, which is a very well-regarded lifestyle magazine in Hoboken, and we've been so glad to have him as part of the team. Chris, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Of course, we have a lot to talk about. Chris, thank you so much for the work you've been doing for the past year in Tap into Hoboken and Tap into Jersey City.
It's been a remarkable year news-wise, and we've done what we can to cover it, and we're still covering it. So
when we launched on April 1st of 2020, we were just getting into the midst of COVID-19. I think we still weren't sure what it was we were facing. We certainly didn't think a year later we'd still be sitting here in studio, actually back in studio finally, but still be sitting here talking about this virus. But as we said earlier, there's a vaccine in place. We've learned how to deal with the virus a little bit more, but we're still losing residents. We're still losing friends and family. And in fact, you wrote a story just the other day about Frank Volpe, a well-known pizza place owner who passed away from it.
Yeah, Hoboken had Hoboken hospitality and the restaurant scene had a big loss with the passing of Mr. Volpe. He was I believe a Staten Island resident, but he had set up shop in Hoboken on Washington Street, uptown around 11th Street, and then he took over the old Grimaldi space on 2nd and Grand, and so they had the two operations there, and that's a big loss, because those are two sort of communities within Hoboken that are now missing a big piece of it. And, you talked about Michael Youn, and for me, Councilman Youn's office was at the end of my block. I live up in Jersey City Heights now, so I knew him. I saw him regularly, and to see members of the community who are typically very visible have them vanish still a year on, that's very impactful.
That really brought the virus into perspective for a lot of us. I think but unfortunately it started rolling from there. As much as Mayor Bala and Mayor Fulop and our leaders at every level did, we still just couldn't get out of the grip of this virus. And again, you just reported again this morning, it's continuing to grow in Hoboken, isn't it? It's still spreading.
It is, yeah, it is. You know, people are taking precautions, but letting some guard down. The mix of vaccinations and unvaccinated are creating this, you know, I guess a more casual approach to the virus that we really have to reel in. You know, I myself went through it about a month and a half ago. I had it, and I would not recommend it. You know, I got through it okay, but you know, I know others who had and others who are still fighting it.
And we talked about your own battle with COVID, and your son, of course, had it also. The two of you battled it together.
Yes.
The other family members, your wife and your little boy, they managed to avoid it, which just shows the mysteries of this virus. You're somebody who's been very careful for the past year. I mean, this is the first or second or third time we've even seen each other in the past 12 months, I'd say, really.
Home.
You're usually sitting home working behind a screen,
away.
as has become the world we live in, right? It's become more remote work. But still, you have no idea how it got into the household. How are you feeling now, though? Do you feel 100% or?
I'd say I'm about a B minus. You know, there are days where I'm just very tired. It's an ongoing thing. There are days where I get really strange body aches and stuff. So it's you know, and I'm hearing a lot of anecdotal and now, you know, anecdotal becomes scientific reports about how it's attacking everything. So it's strange, but you know, it's just keep plugging along, you know.
And as you said, we're kind of living in this time now where the vaccine is out there and it's becoming more accessible. I think it's April 19th. It'll be accessible to every New Jersey resident, which is about 2 weeks in advance of what Governor Murphy officially declared. There's big plans of having every eligible New Jersey resident vaccinated, I believe, by June 30th. They've loosened travel restrictions. So we're getting there. You know, the restaurants are starting to open up a bit more. Thankfully, we're getting to the spring where there's more outside dining. What else do you think needs to be done in Hoboken and Jersey City and across New Jersey to make sure that we're educating residents enough to know it's not over yet?
I don't know what more can be done to educate people because, you know, the message has been out there for a year now. It's a question of recognizing the ever-evolving situation. You know, my parents recently came down. They're all vaccinated, but they arrived. I'm not vaccinated. My wife has one vaccine. My kids have no vaccines. So we're still walking on eggshells and going out. And so it's knowing the limitations that even when you're vaccinated, you still have to adhere to certain protocols and you still have to be conscious of those around you. And you know, you can still carry the virus. You may not feel the effects of it, but you can spread it to those around you. So it's a whole new set of rules that have been sort of derived from the ones we've been working with for the past year.
Absolutely. Yeah, and of course, we keep saying we're in this gray area. The vaccines are there, but we don't all have them. The masks are there, but people choose not to wear them. Do you see some of the restaurants, some of the hospitality industry that you're so closely connected to, adapting more and more as the months have gone on? And do they have some additional plans for the coming months?
They certainly do, and you know, it's going to be great to see some of those places open up a lot more with those restrictions in place and with all these adaptations they're doing. And the outdoor dining is going to help significantly.
Great. Chris, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about something other than COVID-19, though it is still the news story that's been dominating the Tap Into pages and really every local media page. With that, please, you know, we've said it so many times, stay safe and stay healthy. We're going to come back in the next segment. We're going to talk a little bit about redevelopment in Hoboken. We're going to talk about outdoor dining and a whole bunch of other topics. Thank you so much. Hi, and welcome back to Tapped Into Hudson. We have Chris Halleron joining us in the studio today. Chris, of course, is our reporter covering Hoboken, covering part of Jersey City, along with our friend and colleague Al Sullivan. Chris, I want to change gears a little bit from COVID. Sure. Government is still going on, development is still going on, and development is happening, it seems, faster than ever in Hoboken. North side, south side, west side, east side. I mean, there's not a part of Hoboken where there's not sticks going in the ground or plans on the table. I mean,
yeah, it's smack dab in the middle. You know, every aspect of Hoboken is being looked at for development, which is counterintuitive to where we were a year ago when everybody was seemingly fleeing metropolitan areas. That's not the case. There are people who are looking for more space and more, more value for their investment. So we're seeing different kinds of structures go up in Hoboken, but we're seeing plenty of them, and we're seeing a lot of long-term plans that have been debated for years are now starting to get a lot of traction, seemingly all at once. Like I said, they've been in the works, they've been debated and hemmed and hawed and picked apart, but it seems like something has happened to sort of get the wheels in motion, and it's interesting and sort of it's an anxious time in Hoboken as well.
The spark has been lit for sure. You talk about different kinds of developments. When I read the stories that you're publishing with us, I see more green space they're trying to incorporate, more public amenities, trying to incorporate entire communities as opposed to just being a development on its own.
Absolutely.
Is that a fairly accurate assessment?
I would say so, because lifestyle demands are different now. You want more space inside. You want larger apartments. What used to be a sort of the open plan has now in the past year been kind of less than ideal for those who are trying to work from home and those who are trying to combine a homework lifestyle. So you're getting bigger spaces within these units, bigger units within these developments, and then you have to factor in outdoor space and the green space and communal space. So it's a lot more conscientious rather than just sticking up shoeboxes and shoving people in them. So you're seeing a lot of demands, and you're also seeing a lot of demands on developers to adhere to certain environmental restrictions and stuff, which is a big issue in Hoboken, particularly when it comes to accumulating water and rainfall and flooding issues that have been an issue in Hoboken since the glaciers left. So
because they're trying to get past these flooding issues, and here you go, and you take up more impervious space, right? You put buildings on where the water used to drain, and it's not going to drain anymore. Chris, so you talk about the demand, and I often see we put our articles up on Facebook or in some of the Facebook groups, and you get comments, how much building do we need in the city? There's too much. But there's not too much if people are moving in, huh? I mean, we're seeing press releases from these developers saying 50%, 60%, 70%, 80% occupied. People are coming in droves to live in Hoboken, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know who thinks they're going to be the last person into Hoboken, but it's not going to happen. There's always going to be a demand. I mean, all you have to do is face east and see why. There's a very big demand. That demand's expanding into Jersey City, obviously, up the hill into Jersey City Heights. Literally up the hill, up on top of the Palisades into Union City, they're building facilities there. So it's a really dynamic time in development, and a lot of things need to be implemented for it to be done well. You have a lot of people who are sort of trying to hit the pause button on all these projects because there are a lot of things that are integral to the success and just having the viability in terms of getting this many people into that small a place with the least amount of knock-on. We are losing ground that would otherwise, be the swampland that it once was. It would absorb the water, but they're trying to fix it by putting in green infrastructure, water retention systems, and we need to see how that's going to work. But meanwhile, they're still putting a lot adjacent to these things, which makes it interesting.
Of course, and this development, of course, is expanding into Bayonne, which is something Al and I talk about almost every week, and Al is constantly writing stories. Chris, talk a little bit about this transfer, or this change from people getting on the subway every morning, or the PATH train, of course, in Hoboken, or getting on the ferry into New York, and actually staying home to work. I mean, this is a phenomenon that started this time last year, or really blew up this time last year, and it doesn't seem to go away. It just doesn't seem to want to go away, and it's going to stay for a long time. Working remotely.
I led the charge on this. I was way ahead of this, working from home. So it makes it, when you have the technology and you have the ability to not have to go in every day. Obviously, there's a desire to stay home and a desire to be just as effective from your home office as you would be going in and out. So, but meanwhile, places like Hoboken and Jersey City and Bayonne, they still have community, and they still have retail. Hospitality, all these other aspects that drew you here in the first place. So that's not going to go away. People still want to have that stuff, and they want to have it accessible. So that's why you're seeing a lot of development and a lot of growth in existing urban areas that aren't necessarily the heart of Manhattan, but are very adjacent and connectable.
Right.
So.
Chris, when we come back in a few minutes, I want to continue talking about development, but not so much about the buildings going in the ground. I want to talk more about some of that infrastructure that you said is going in around it, some of the park space that's being built, what's being done to fix some of the flooding issues, and also some of the social amenities that are being built, parks, retail, restaurants, what else is coming to Hoboken with the development. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you back in a minute.
Hudson Regional Hospital, we promise to be prepared for your emergency.
We promise to provide world-class robotic surgical care.
We promise to treat you like family.
To provide accurate diagnostic care.
To provide the most innovative orthopedic care at your doorsteps.
We promise to treat your baby like our own.
To never stop investing in the best of spinal care.
To be with you every step of the way.
Here at Hudson Regional Hospital, we promise to take care of our community.
Pen & Pencil Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at penandpencilproperties.com. Pen & Pencil Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hi, welcome back to Tapped into Hudson. I'm Steve Lenox. I'm the publisher of Tap into Hoboken, Tap into Bayonne, and Tap into Jersey City. We're talking a lot about development in Hoboken today, and we have Chris Halleron, our reporter from Tap into Hoboken, joining us. Chris, we talked very generally in the last segment about the development that's happening in every corner of town. Mm-hmm. Can you give us some more specifics? I mean, why don't you talk about the North End project first, and then maybe work your way down through the city?
Sure. Yeah, we'll commute all the way down. And in the North End, there's the area north of the viaduct, which has been up for development for years. There's been fledgling businesses that have gone in there and done very well for themselves, and there's a lot of space around there. So they're looking to finally redevelop that area in earnest. They've announced a plan last March, a few weeks ago, actually.
Yep. A plan that was many years in the making.
Many years in the making. Yeah. They tweaked it and finalized it and approved it, and they're already tweaking it again. So what's going on is they have to implement a lot of changes with how they're going to deal with that flooding that we discussed in the last segment. They're also talking about putting a light rail station up there, which is seamless and makes a lot of sense because there's a big disconnect between 9th Street and then all the way over in Weehawken, and there's a huge area that's underserved by that. So that's great news for everybody that's up there. What is hanging in the balance now is they had put in plans for a large linear park, which is basically just a long block that would be wide open for green space. Part of the situation there is that the Monarch project, which was supposed to be on the waterfront, which was being run by Iron State Developers, there was a deal in place to not have them build on the waterfront, but rather take over the Department of Public Works, which is back in the southern end of town, thereby moving the public works somewhere else in Hoboken.
Yep.
Now, everybody knew essentially where it was going, but just recently they've announced that one developer's proposed that they would take that DPW garage and stick it right in the middle of that linear space. So that's really kind of, after, like you said, years of planning this, they're like, well, we're just going to plop this down in the middle of it. So
you have park space, you have children living, you have families living with dump trucks, garbage trucks, and everything else.
It's a significant concern to those who live up there.
Yep.
Bijou Properties are the ones who've made the proposal, and Bijou's been very good to Hoboken, and Hoboken's been very good to Bijou. So, it makes sense that they would try to find a way to make it work out. And a lot of what's going into a lot of these places are mixed-use retail with developments on top for residential. Okay. And that's what was proposed there, along with putting in a significant amount of space for the DPW. That swings us back around south to where the DPW used to be, and that entire southern quadrant there, from the waterfront to the Palisade, is now looking at significant redevelopment. We're talking about the rail yard project, which has been on the table for years and years and years, working with New Jersey Transit to optimize use of their space there and improve facilities for NJ Transit, infrastructure for NJ Transit. Meanwhile, sort of prudently develop the area adjacent along Observer Highway, which is a very, very crowded, high traffic zone, car traffic zone. And they're going to plug in residential. They're looking at hotels a little further back. They're looking at, as you go further west, you're looking at two more developments that are going up. One would be a big name grocery store going in next to the Southwest Park, which is part of that whole resiliency park situation. So you have very high development, very high density development on top of structures that are supposed to be alleviating flooding, and that's making a lot of people scratch their heads.
At the same time, you've got that development right across the border in Jersey City. You've got the same amount of development going up, and plans for even more. So when you talk about flooding and you talk about wanting to move people around, you kind of, as you said, scratch your head a little bit and say, how are we going to do this? So you talk about that light rail that's going to be built in the north end of town if those plans come to fruition. What else is being done to move people in an easier? I mean, is it bike lanes? Is it sidewalks? I mean, we got to get people moving. We can't have them sitting in cars, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, bike lanes are a big plug-in answer for a lot of this. Reducing the necessity for car traffic is a major concern in Hoboken. It always has been because it's a very small, tight space, as is Jersey City adjacent to it. Jersey City's development has kind of had Hoboken sit there and say, well, if you're going to put that here, then we should probably do the same here. But again, no one's really talking about how they're going to deal with the logistics of moving those people around. So bike lanes are it. Multimodal transportation, they're looking at scooters and
I was going to ask you, are you going to mention scooters? Because that's always a tough issue in Hoboken,
scooters,
right?
Sure. It's a hot button topic. It comes down to personal responsibility and just using them the way they're meant to be used, and that's been a big issue in Hoboken. So it's going to be interesting to see the amount of development, how these plans are put into place to get these people around, and what's going to be done for the flooding. These plans all look great on paper. We just have to see how they work in reality.
That's right, Chris. You just used the phrase personal responsibility, and that's such an apropos phrase as we talk about COVID-19. We talk about development and everything that goes with it. When we come back, I want to get away from development, that we can spend show after show on it, and talk about some of the social aspects of Hoboken, some of the events that we've covered in the past week, the things that are starting to happen again, get families back out in the neighborhoods. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching, and we'll be right back.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport, live like you want.
Cutting-edge surgical care is right here in Secaucus.
Robotic surgery is safer.
Shorter hospital stays.
Smaller abdominal incisions, the size of an M&M. Here at Hudson Regional, we provide world-class robotic surgical care.
Hi, and welcome back to our final segment of Tapped into Hoboken. We've been talking about COVID, we've been talking about development, but we're going to spend these last few minutes talking about some of the social aspects of living in Hoboken. Things, as we said, they're starting to get back to normal, right? We're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Just last week, I covered an event that Councilwoman Jabor helped put together with the Little Free Public Library, great event in the back end of town. I saw that Hoboken Grace did a massive Easter egg hunt. I saw that the Easter Bunny traveled through Hoboken on Saturday on the back of a fire truck. So again, starting to get back to this sense of normalcy. Are you starting to feel that a little bit in Hoboken?
I would say so, because there are, again, the vaccinations are becoming more prominent and people are finding their way out now. They're not going to say everybody's been locked up for a year, but we were locked up for a while, and then we had a pretty, tough winter from February on, and we got hammered pretty bad. So I think people are really itching to get out, and they're doing so. And that's where again, going back to COVID, we have to be a little more cautious about how we do it, but there's definitely a desire and there's definitely an opportunity to get out. The parks are open now, the bike spaces are open now, the play spaces are open. The restaurants will be getting their outdoor dining back, or making it. The weather will be cooperating with outdoor dining.
Enjoy the outdoor dining. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when is Hoboken going to be back to normal? It's impossible to say. It's impossible to say what normal will be, but there is, a definite desire to rekindle what it was there in terms of community and interacting with local hospitality and local businesses. So.
Chris, you mentioned hospitality, and you have a long history with the hospitality business in Hoboken.
I do, yes.
Both sides of the bar.
Both sides
it's
of the
probably
bar,
fair
sure.
to say, and you're a frequent diner at many of Hoboken's greatest establishments. How have they weathered the storm in the past 12 months? I know it's been a difficult ride. Senator Menendez was in recently to talk about some grant aid that was available. A lot of them have found ways to save their staff. Are you hearing some positivity coming from some of these restaurant owners? Do they feel like they're starting to come out of the other end of this?
They're starting to, yeah, they feel like they're coming out, but everybody's anxious. Everybody's walking on eggshells because there have been so many points throughout the past year where they thought, okay, well, maybe this is when we'll get to 50% capacity, or maybe this is where we can go full on. And it's been a lot of, I don't want to say false hope, but a lot of over anticipation, I guess is the word I would say. So I think at this point, expectations are very curbed among hospitality owners, but they're still seeing an influx. And I was out recently, I was over at Leo's in Hoboken, and they were at their prescribed capacity, but it was still pretty vibrant. They still had a lot of people in there that were safely distanced and eating, within different proper social distancing. So it was great to see. Like I said, there's a desire to get out, so people are going to try to do it.
Chris, Hoboken is well known for a lot of these festivals they host, whether it's the music festival or the Great Italian festivals they host. Do we have any idea, or any of them coming back this year?
We haven't heard anything on that, and it's probably too early to say. I would imagine that the Spring Arts and Music Festival would be tough to execute, but there's always hope that we can do the fall one. There's always hope that we can restore music on the waterfront. In Sinatra Park, they always have music there, and that's been missed. Music in general, arts in general, have been missed tremendously in Hoboken and Jersey City and surrounding areas. It'd be nice to hear live music again. There are a few venues that are doing that, a few privately owned venues that are having bands come in and play, small bands. But yeah, it'd be nice to get some music and some arts represented back in there.
I think a lot of it goes back to the personal responsibility that you mentioned before, right? If we can follow some of these rules that have been difficult. I mean, they've been challenging. None of us have appreciated them. None of us have liked them, but a lot of us have rolled with them. If we can continue to mask up, maybe we'll be okay. Chris, I'm going to give you about a minute to answer this last question, and it might be the toughest one. We're still in election year in Hoboken. How is COVID-19 and everything that we've gone through in the past 12 months and what we have ahead of us, how do you think that's going to impact the elections?
It's going to have a significant impact. Hoboken has responded to the COVID challenges. They've been very proactive. There are other things that could have been done better, absolutely. This is unprecedented. But I think by and large, the people of Hoboken are pleased with how the city has tried to handle it. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue that you can really beat someone up on. You have underlying issues in Hoboken, omnipresent issues, which we've talked about already: flooding, cars, bikes, all these other things that are really coming to the fore. They haven't gone away, but from a COVID perspective, I think Hoboken's done a very commendable job in trying to manage what has been a very, very difficult time for such a densely populated area that's so dependent upon hospitality and so dependent on small business. They've done what they can. Other entities have come in and done what they can to help in terms of grants. And there's been some shakeout, there's been some losses, there's been some genuine losses, but by and large, we're hoping Hoboken can come through it.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot more to talk about, and you'll be back in following weeks. With that, thank you so much for continuing to read Tap into Hoboken, Tap into Jersey City, and Tap into Bayonne. Stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you next week. Thank you.